Okay, cool. Okay, so let's get then started. Thank you, Piyush, for joining us today on this podcast. And thanks to everyone who joined today. So the goal for today is to explore the world of cloud engineers and you see what some of the tools that they use and develop for other people to use as such as data engineers, data scientists, and so on, right? And how you can yourself start implementing it in your day-to-day life to automate tons of things, right? Um, and it's a field I feel which is trending these days and going forward as companies start realizing the importance of you know cloud and automation and so on, right? And just like in the previous episodes, I kept saying, data science was big 5 years ago. Now data engineering is big because companies now realize, having a data scientist is useless if you don't have the infrastructure ready, right? So now companies are hiring a lot more data engineers to have their infrastructure set up, and then data scientists can do their jobs. So I feel going forward, DevOps, MLOps, and so on uh, will be at the forefront because then companies will be like, okay, now we have models. How do we put it into production, right? So that's why today we invited someone from Google itself to share their experience and tell us more about this adventure, right? So for today's talk, we have Piyush. So Piyush is a technical solutions developer at Google, and he's got many years of experience. So right now he works as a cloud engineer. Previously, he used to work as DevOps, and he's got many years of experience in the field. So we'll be love to hear more about uh, this specific field and what he's up to, um, and how we can use the things that they are building, right? Um, so that's me, along with two other co-hosts. So we are running the data science show on weekly basis. So we run podcasts. We also run data science training. Soon we'll be starting out live coding sessions on how to do machine learning, deep learning, and so on. So a little bit introduction to us. So Ashid, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. Hi Hemendra, hi Pradeep. I'm Ashit. I'm a civil engineer by background. I did my civil engineering in 2021 from IIT Bombay, and I'm currently working as a data scientist at Piramal Finance. It is a lending business, and I have about 2 years of experience till now.
Thank you. So me, some Mithul, my background is in theoretical physics, and then I moved into data science. So I have few years of experience as a data scientist in different industries. Started out in healthcare, then moved back to academia in physics, and now I work for a retailer, Decathlon. That's where I'm a data scientist. Shashant, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah. So my background is mostly in statistics. I have totally 5 year of experience, mostly in the retail, multimedia, and quick commerce services. So right now working with Geo, where I'm mostly part of the recommendation teams, which provide recommendation for multimedia. Yeah.
Thank you. So let's introduce today's speaker then. So Piyush, would you like to introduce yourself, or do you want me to
Uh,
do the introduction for you?
yeah, I'll go ahead.
Sure,
Thank you
go
so much.
ahead.
Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you very much for Ashit, Shushant, and Mithul for inviting me to have this amazing session with you folks. So, about myself, I am Piyush Sachdeva, and I have close to 12 years of experience. I started my journey with production support analyst with Accenture, and then Amdocs, and then Citibank. Then I'm a self-taught DevOps engineer. So I transitioned my career from that role to a DevOps role with CIBC Bank Canada, and I worked there as a technical DevOps lead. And then I worked as a cloud engineer with Cognizant for a few months, and now for past 1 year, I'm working with Google as a cloud engineer. And yeah, that's everything about me. Other than that, I have this YouTube channel, Tech Tutorials with Piyush, where I publish weekly videos and podcast on tutorials related to cloud and DevOps. And yeah, that's pretty much about me. Looking forward for this session
So what's it called? Tech tutorials with
with
Piyush?
Piyush. So it's a YouTube channel. I don't have a website yet, but yeah. So firstly, this one.
Okay, so anyone interested in learning more about DevOps and so on, feel free to check out their videos. I've checked out a few of the videos myself, and there's a lot to learn. So do check it out. Good content. And thank you, Piyush, for joining us again.
Thanks, Dave.
Glad
My
to have
pleasure.
you. So yeah, so let's get started. Actually, would love to learn more about this. So let's start with the production support analyst role.
Mhm.
What exactly you used to do there, and how did you
Yep.
transition to your next role, which is a technical lead DevOps.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I started it in 2012 with Accenture, and this was my first job, my first project that I got. I didn't have a choice, like which product I wanted to go in. So was something that was imposed on me, and I gladly accepted it. So I learned a lot of things from there. Like that was not the role that I have envisioned for my, like, after 10 years of my career or so. But this was a good start for me because not from a developer's background or not from a coding background, I I didn't know what to do. So I was clueless, like which field is right for me. If I'm not a developer, then what would I do in IT? So that was a phase for me, but then luckily I got this role and I got to learn a lot of things such as Linux administration, Unix, shell scripting. So this was the start. So it helped me build that basic foundation for all the DevOps and cloud roles that is there. And then in our project, we were introduced with some DevOps tools such as Jenkins, GitHub, Artifactory, and so on. That was the first step, but it was pretty basic at that time because we were just in the initial phase of adoption, and it was not in depth, or what I would say, it was not a production grade skill that I would wanted to have for myself or for my career. So after coming to Canada, DevOps was really hot in the market at that time, around 5 years back. So I started learning it. I took some Udemy courses on Jenkins, some advanced courses on Jenkins, and built some projects around it, and some YouTube videos I watched. And then, I was ready to enter into the DevOps field, but I didn't have any experience. Plus, because I was new to Canada and I was looking for any job at that moment, I couldn't be choosy. Right? So I accepted the first job that I got, which was again the production support role as in the Citibank. Over there as well, I learned a lot of things, like my basic building blocks, all the foundation knowledge around Linux administration and Unix. And then on the side, I was preparing for my next transition, which is how do I move into the DevOps role. So I created a plan for myself. I learned all the tools while I was there in my around 8 or 9 months of career. And I check mark that one item, like all the items one at a time. And then finally I got the job as a DevOps engineer. So that that is how I transitioned into that role. Plus, after getting into that role, I was you know uh, because at that time cloud came into the picture. It was fairly new. I wouldn't say it was new in the market, but it was new for me, and like most of the companies were adopting it. So I started learning cloud. I started with AWS. I got myself certified, like AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. And then in my project, they were implementing Azure. So I asked my manager if I could be a part of it. And so they involved me in that program. So I did around five, six certifications into Azure in 2 years. And then also I've implemented CI/CD pipeline using Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps was fairly new, not even for the company, not even for me, but for the market. It was introduced somewhere in 2019. And like after a year only, we have started implementing it. So it was really a good learning experience for me. And that all those foundation, all those learnings that I did helped me build the the base for me, and it helped me um, move from that role to a cloud engineer role. So then I joined Cognizant as a cloud engineer again with Azure. So I was earlier, I was, DevOps, then I moved to AWS, then I moved to Azure. And then I started, working on myself, working on my skill set, and trying to, I tried myself to help the community using through my YouTube videos, through my blogs, through my post, everything that I could do. So I was doing some mentoring session as well, one to one over LinkedIn. And it really helped me, it helped my profile getting noticed on LinkedIn, and recruiters, they started reaching out to me. So during that time, during that 3 years of my learning, I gave interviews at Amazon like around 6, 7 times for all different roles. So it was a software support engineer, it was technical account manager, it was a cloud technical account manager, DevOps consultant, senior DevOps consultant, and solution architect. There was a lot of different roles that I've applied and rejected. So but that didn't stop my learning, and that didn't stop me from applying to Amazon. I kept applying it, I kept working on my skills, and I kept applying it. And then one day I got the call from Google recruiter that we have this opportunity with Google Cloud as a cloud like technical solution developer, which is basically a cloud engineer role. And then I tried it, and all the learnings, all the failures that I had in the past, it helped me get into that role. So now I'm working with Google Cloud, and my specialization is GKE, that's Google Kubernetes Engine. And yeah, I'm still doing all other things like community contribution and everything that I was doing before. And that's pretty much about me.
That's a beautiful introduction to your entire journey from, how you jumped from one role to another, and how you actually did it, right? So going back to, a couple of questions that came to my mind. So going back to your initial days of your career, right? So how did
Hmm.
you, so when you were learning these tools, so
Hmm.
I'm guessing, you picked up these tools at work, right? So did you have, we always prefer, whenever we start our journey into something, we
Hmm.
always prefer to have a mentor, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Either at work or,
Hmm.
outside work and so on, who can teach
Yep.
us, right?
Mhm.
So how did you have a mentor initially to teach you these things, or were you just learning it by yourself?
Mm,
And if you were learning
no,
by yourself,
actually, it was, so he was sort of my mentor plus my friend. So when I came to Canada, I got a friend over here, Puneet, and so we were doing the job search together. And so whatever I learned, I used to teach him, and whatever he learned or he knows, he used to teach me. So it was like a community learning, learning in public, but we formed a small community among ourselves. So we were just two of us, but we were learning from each other. We were helping each other out. So that's how I started my learning, and that's how I understood the power of learning in public. So
exactly.
that really helped me. Yeah, that
Right.
really helped me.
So yeah, so for people who are attending today, there you go. There's a suggestion for you guys now, right? So anytime you're learning something new, you know, find a friend or someone who you can work with, right, and start learning together. And that's what me, and that's how I learn things.
Mhm.
The new tools that comes out every single day, and if I want to learn, go into a new adventure, go find courses, team up with your buddies, and start learning together. And that's how you're going to share knowledge and get into the field. um, and so that was my first question. The second question, the certifications, right? So you mentioned, this AWS certifications, and this Microsoft Azure, and so on, right?
Yep.
How valuable you think these certifications are at an earlier stage of your career, in terms of landing jobs or even landing interviews?
Mhm.
Can you get away without having them? Because
Yep.
for example, like I use AWS at work, right? So
Mhm.
I know how to use AWS and all that stuff,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I never bothered to actually go and
Mhm.
get these certifications, because
Mhm.
I already know stuff, right?
Yep. Yep.
So so what's the value,
Yep.
how
Yep.
valuable it is?
Yeah. So what
Mhm.
I would say, or what I think, the value of certification, it is a good to have, not a mandatory thing to have. So it's good when you have a lot of certification, or the certifications that are currently in demand in the market. It's good to have on your resume. It help you, get that visibility around recruiters when they search for a particular role, right? But when it comes to actual job, certification doesn't help much. The thing that help much is your learning, your skills, and how well you can explain the scenario that's been given to you. So it helps you validate your skill sets. That's one thing. But certification alone cannot help you get a job. You have to get that skill. You have to get the hands-on experience to get the actual job in that particular role.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah. So I mean, what I was saying, just to add on that,
Mhm.
I was doing all those certifications because I wanted to learn the cloud, right? I didn't have the actual working experience, but at the same time, I wanted to learn, let's say, Azure. So one thing I could have done is I took like I could have followed some roadmap or followed some sort of learning path to learn that particular technology. Or the other way I could have done, and which I did, is to follow the certification path, because they already provide you an organized learning path which you can use and get yourself expertise in that field. So, for
Mhm.
example, if I wanted to learn DevOps in Azure, how it is implemented and what all the tools or processes you have to learn. So, I did AZ 400, which is Azure DevOps certification. Right. So they already provided me a learning path. Okay, so you have to follow these topics. You should know Jenkins, you should know Azure DevOps CI/CD, you should know all the basic principles, you should know how to interact, how to integrate all those tools together, Git branching, and so on. So that's how I learned all those tools by doing the certification. Yes, it
Mhm.
helped me, got my resume selected, picked up, and got the visibility. But I didn't, like, because it was there in my resume, I never really talked about my certification. I talked about all the experience that I had, or all the projects that I implemented on my own. So
Mhm.
that's what helps the most.
Mhm. Okay.
So
So
your
for new people who join us, sorry, actually just a quick thing. So for people who just joined, I just want to share you guys again. Piyush runs a YouTube channel called Tech Tutorials with Piyush. So go check it out if you want to learn, more about cloud engineering, DevOps, and so on. So I'll just put this here in the slides. So for uh, anyone who wants to go check it out, that's the YouTube channel. Yeah, go ahead, Ashik.
Yeah. So Piyush, your primary source of learning were these certifications, or did you primarily learn from open source stuff?
I mostly took Udemy courses, and then the certification. So when you're preparing for certification, there are a lot of resources that you follow. For example, for Microsoft certification, there is a Microsoft Learn website, at where
Mm.
you have all the topics, but then it is a lot of written content, and you usually get bored after reading all those things, and it is a lot. So that's when I started using Udemy courses. Okay, because it is interactive, and it is you can retain a lot of knowledge when you see it visually rather than just reading it. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then whatever topic I feel like I'm still not getting the depth of it, and I would like to explore it more. So I just randomly search over YouTube, and so yeah, so
Hmm.
I just try out different sources and whichever works for me.
Right. And so, uh, what are the differences and overlaps between cloud engineer and DevOps?
So, with when DevOps came into the picture, there were not a lot of companies that were working on cloud. It was mostly on premises, bare metal, VMware, all those kind of implementation. Every company has their own data centers, or they outsourced it to some other company who were providing them the data center. But then, as
Hmm.
it evolved, there were a lot of things that changed. Now people are mostly asking not just the DevOps experience, but along with that, they're asking cloud experience as well. But again, there is no policy yet, or there is no strict requirement which cloud they are wanting. So they say either AWS or Azure or GCP, because the underlying implementation of all the clouds are same. So if you have experience or knowledge in either of the clouds, then this should be good. So at the same time, if you are applying for a cloud role, so using in that cloud, one of the responsibility is to implement CI/CD or using DevOps tool. So then it comes into the picture. Okay, cloud experience is must to have for a cloud role, but DevOps experience is good to have. Or in most of the cases, it is also a must have. For example, when I was working with Cognizant, my end client was Bank of Montreal. Over there, my role was cloud engineer, but I was also doing infrastructure as a code using ARM template into Azure, which is a part of DevOps responsibility. And I was also responsible for implementing Azure CI/CD pipeline. So, so there is a lot of overlap depending upon the role. There is a lot of overlap between these two roles. Mostly the tools that we use, for example, you use tools such as Jenkins, GitLab for um, if you have the multi-cloud infrastructure, or if you are on premises. But then if you are cloud native, then let's say you are on Azure, then you use Azure DevOps. If you are on uh, AWS, then you use AWS code pipeline, deployment pipeline. So again, these are the services that is provided by cloud providers, but then it's comes under the umbrella of DevOps and CI/CD. I'm
Hmm.
not sure if I have answered your question, but yeah, there is a lot of overlap between those two. And
And
like if you are applying for a DevOps role, you should have experience with the cloud and vice versa.
and what are the other things that a cloud engineer does that a DevOps doesn't?
Okay, so DevOps, like if there's this core DevOps role and not the
Hmm.
overlap that we have talked about.
Yeah.
So the implementation of cloud, like let's say migration of application from on premises to cloud, or from one cloud to another, and making sure all the security IAMs, everything is in place, and doing regular checks, uh, you know regular audit, and monitoring of your environment, that everything in place is working as expected. So these are some of the responsibilities of a cloud engineer. Plus there are like the role that I'm in, it comes under cloud support role. And in that, you usually get a ticket or like a case from a customer. Let's say someone is my customer facing some issues with one of the GKE cluster. Like let's say their application is not coming up due to so and so error, then they raise a case with it, it's get assigned to us. We start working on it, we troubleshoot the case, and we help them getting their environment up and running. So yeah, so so these are all the cloud responsibilities.
Got it. Got it.
We do have a question from Pradeep. So if someone asks you what should be the learning path or resources for learning AWS and do a
Mhm,
certification, and
mhm.
what would you recommend?
Okay. So, like I said, the way I see learning is if you get an organized or a well formed learning path, and certifications provide you that. So, even if you are not going for the actual certification exam, just follow the certification path led by that exam. Let's say AWS Solution Architect Associate. Okay, so you just go to their website, see the exam blueprint, what all the topics are included in that, and make sure you do the actual hands-on of all the topics. And when you do the hands-on, then you'll get to know what challenges are you facing, and then you will get to know like where your current skill at, and what all the services or skill set that you need to work on next. So that's how I prepare for any cloud or certification or any tools or technology. I like, let's say I wanted to learn Kubernetes, so I did CK certification, certified Kubernetes administration. There are a lot of good resources out there which you can utilize to learn those things, and that really helps.
Yeah, in terms of the path, you can always find a path as to, where, some people always get confused as to, in terms of AWS certification, there are tons of certifications, right? So
Yep.
where do you
Yeah.
start? So, always go, even on the AWS website, there's usually a path that you can follow as to, where you can start. And the beginning is usually, a cloud practitioner. So that's where you start and then you walk your way through, and, any of these. Um, Another question. So in terms of, let's say if someone wants to start their career in DevOps,
Mhm.
how how long does it take for one to, get to where they should be in terms of, applying for jobs and at least landing an interviews, right? So in terms of the learning process and, how much they need to learn, how
Mhm.
long do you think it would take? Given, when you started it, years ago, there weren't many resources, I'm guessing, back then, as
Mhm.
compared to now. Now the field is well known and there are tons of courses, Udemy, Coursera, and so on, right?
Yep.
So what do you think, at this point in time, it would take for someone to actually, explore and start in this new field?
Yeah, so I would say it depends on like your background knowledge and experience. Like if you are absolute beginner to DevOps or absolute beginner to IT, then I would say roughly 5 to 6 months, because you would have to work on a lot of concepts, a lot of skills, starting from Linux administration to infrastructure, networking, operating system concepts, then shell scripting or any of the scripting language. Then it comes actual DevOps tools, CI/CD processes, monitoring, alerting, logging. There are a lot of things, and nowadays cloud as well. So you should have at least some basic experience in either of the clouds. So I would say roughly 6 months, give or take. But depends. Like if you have that basic knowledge, if you have, like for myself, like I worked with production support, so I had that basic foundation of Linux, and so I didn't have to, I just had to brush up my skills and didn't have to do it from the scratch. So it took me around 4 months or so. Not really sure, but yeah, that's how that much how like it'll take roughly.
And then when people start applying for jobs, so are these, if let's say people want to go into DevOps, right? Can you
Mhm.
actually search for jobs by title DevOps, or is there other names that,
Yeah.
companies use for such a role? Is this name well known, or
Yeah,
um,
so
mhm.
mostly it'll be just DevOps consultant or DevOps engineer, but it's so as per like in different organization, the name is called by different names, such as release and build engineer, um, DevOps specialist, but it comes under DevOps, and then there is uh, operations automation engineer, CI/CD engineer, or um, so yeah, it's been called by different names, and
Mhm.
then in Google there is this role called SRE, which is like an extension of DevOps. So there is a lot of part of it that comes under the DevOps umbrella, and which is site reliability engineer, and Yeah, I guess like these are the pretty common names, but
Mhm.
yeah, it can be called with different names.
Mhm. Yeah, because sometimes, because of the names, right? Like people often get confused on, okay, which role would I be qualifying it to, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so yeah, that's the reason, I asked as to, what one look for when you're trying to find the roles. Um, Another question actually I had and I forgot. Oh, okay. So with DevOps, what are some of the tools and uh, you know, if you were to give a brief description on the number of tools that's used by DevOps and what each of these tools do, and just a brief overview. Um,
Sure. Mhm.
mhm,
So when it comes to, so I'll start with the basics. So first you should know is a version control system such as GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, either of those, right? So it doesn't matter which version control you choose. So it should be centralized. For example, SVN was not centralized; it was a legacy that we were using before. But now, like these version control system, they are all based on Git, and so you could choose GitHub, Bitbucket, uh, or GitLab, right? Then the next would
The
be a
centralized
CI/CD.
mean?
So centralized is when your all your developers can work simultaneously on one code base at the same time, right? So earlier we had the version control such as SVN, or there was something called Star Team that I used a long time ago, and in that there was no capabilities of when someone is working on a file or a, there was no concept of branches either. When someone is working on a file, they have to download the complete code base, have to make the change and then upload it, you know. But then if someone else is making the change in that file, the changes will get overwritten. So there was no flexibility of doing making all the changes parallelly. Now, with the centralized version control system, there is a central server hosted in, let's say, GitHub, and it will have your base copy. You can branch it so that everyone can work on their own branch, make the changes, and then merge it into the main branch. So, centralized version control system has a lot of power, and this is what everyone is using nowadays. There are some TFVC, I guess that's what it's called, which is a decentralized version of it. That's an offline version, and it doesn't, it depends on organization. Like if they don't want to host their code that is accessible via the internet, that they can use those systems. But if someone is a beginner and wants to follow a roadmap, I would suggest to go with something that is pretty common in the market that a lot of companies are using. And examples of that are GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab. So these three, either of these three. GitHub is the most common and most popular one, and yeah, you could choose from that.
yeah.
Is
Before
it
you
the
go on to describe, oh, sorry, go ahead, Ashit.
uh, on the screen? Is it the last one, distributed concurrent version control? Is that the one, decentralized one?
No, that's that's a product. That's not a type of version control system, but that's a product.
Okay.
So before you move on to the next tool, so I just want to mention, the importance of, the version control system, right? And not just in a particular field, but overall, no matter which, field you go into, like software, data science, data engineering, etc., right? Git is, or the version control system is the most important tool that, you should learn no matter which field you go into. If you don't know this, then you're behind others, right? There are people out there who know it and they'll be able to get a job that you wouldn't be able to. Okay, because that's where companies, uh, you know, s- leave their codes, right? So that's their, if you like, it's their database for code, right? So that's where they store their code and people can, teams interact with each other, communicate with each other, work hands on hand, and that's where things go into production from. Okay, So you should really learn either of these three tools that Piyush mentioned, right? GitHub, GitLab. What was the other one? I don't remember, but
Bitbucket.
Bitbucket, right?
Yeah.
And GitHub. So GitHub is slightly different than GitLab and Bitbucket in terms of if you ever use Docker, there's a Docker Hub and so on. Similarly, there is slight distinction between, let's say, GitHub and GitLab, right? I think in GitLab you can do CI/CD itself. I think that's where the distinction comes in terms
No,
with
I guess
respect to
yeah.
GitHub
Now
or
now it's with every system. Like with
every
GitHub,
system, right?
we have GitHub Actions.
Mhm.
Bitbucket also has Bitbucket CI/CD pipeline, and GitLab has CI pipeline.
So is
So
it
yeah,
GitHub that was originally started doing this CI/CD
yes,
and then
yes, yes.
GitHub saw that? Okay, yeah.
I'm not
Oh,
really sure who started it first, but like the tool that came into the picture at the
uh-huh.
beginning. So GitHub was the one of the oldest tool,
Mhm.
and then every tools came into the picture.
Mhm. So we'll get to Jenkins.
Yep.
So right now we're talking about version control systems. Okay, so now you can move on
Yep.
to the next tools.
Yep.
Mhm.
So after version control system, we are just talking about tools. Like I've already mentioned, along with these tools, you have to know the basic of infrastructure, networking, and all those things. So I'm not gonna say that again for now.
Mhm.
We just covered it. So we are just talking about tools. So next tool is CI/CD tool, right? So if you are beginner, what I would suggest is to go with Jenkins, because Jenkins is the most popular tool even after so many days. Like it was introduced back in around 2014 somewhere, and even now it has a lot of power, and most of it supports like almost every cloud provider, even for on premises, and it is easy to learn, easy to implement, and this is something that I would recommend. This is what I chose as my first CI/CD tool. Then,
Mhm.
if you are working on any of the specific cloud, let's say you are working on Azure, then Azure DevOps is really a good to have. Again, it provides a lot of flexibility, a lot of things that you can do in Azure with Azure DevOps. And so this is just the CI/CD tool that it provides a framework which integrate all those tools together, and it helps you build your pipelines. It helps you, automate your manual tasks and so on. And yeah, so this is what I would suggest. And then the next tool is around infrastructure as a code. So with the introduction of a cloud, there is a lot of need to automate the cloud provisioning and decommissioning. Let's say you need a virtual machine. Earlier, before the cloud era, we used to have a dedicated infrastructure team in every company. You file a request, it takes a lot of approval process. They reach out to data center, they assign that to someone as a work item, and it takes around months to just get a server provision. With the introduction of cloud, now you can just make few changes in your services, just few clicks, and your server will be ready just within just few minutes. But then there is a need to make sure like your server is decommissioning when you don't need it, to save the cost, to save all the operational expenses. So that's when infrastructure as a code come into the picture, where you can automate the provisioning of your infrastructure using tools such as Terraform is again the market leader, which you can use in any of the cloud, right? And you can just provision your infrastructure by writing simple YAML code. And and it also has the other benefit, which involves, let's say you want to have 40 identical environments. So you create one template using Terraform, and just make some changes, like environment one name would be this, environment two name would be this, and then it will provision you 40 different environments at the same time within just few clicks. And then you can decommission it as fast as you can, and like as soon as your work is done. So infrastructure as a code tool, and Terraform is what I would suggest. But then if you are again working on any specific cloud, so AWS has cloud formation, Azure has ARM template and Bicep, GCP has Google Deployment Manager. Yeah. So you could go with either of those tools. Or if you are good with programming, such as Python, there are Python CDKs available, which SDKs available, which you can use to again provision your infrastructure.
Yep. Okay. Well.
Then
So go ahead.
Terraform, does it work on like every cloud service, or where does
like
it?
most of the clouds are supported. So every cloud provides their providers. This is what they call. So for example, if I want to automate anything in AWS, so AWS has a Terraform provider. So you can use that provider, which will install all the dependencies that it needs, and then you can just write your code on top of that. So it's basically JSON format, I guess. Yeah. So Terraform is it works on the JSON format, and it is really easy to implement. It is really easy to learn.
So I think
And
before Terraform, the way things were, well, with each, cloud services that you use, like people had to, format in a way that we would interact with, one cloud service as compared to other.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
where like Terraform or the founder, whoever was it, decided, okay, why not build something that can be, used on any cloud
Mhm.
services, right? So that's at least that's what I heard about the story about Terraform. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, like the basic language will be same. Like you will still be using JSON, like whichever cloud you are choosing, but the provider will be different. Like for AWS, let's say you want to implement an AWS virtual machine. So provider, like the resource type would be EC2 instance something, and then all the fields inside that would be different. Then if you are using in Azure, so there'll be Azure RM virtual machine. So the names, parameters, all those will still be different, but it is using the same framework. It is using the same language behind it. So it is really easy to transition from one cloud to another if you know the Terraform.
Yeah.
these
So
days, is it the standard Terraform? Like, does
Terraform is
everyone?
mostly the standard. Yeah, even if the clouds have their own solutions, still the customers that are with any of the specific cloud provider, they are still prefer to use Terraform. Again, so when you are learning something, when you are a beginner to something, I would suggest to go with the market leader. Like with CI/CD, Jenkins is still the market leader. With the infrastructure as a code, Terraform is still the market leader. So if you go with the market leader, that means that tool or that process is commonly used in the market. Most of the companies will be using that, and there'll be a lot of openings asking for that particular experience. But if you go with any particular, let's say if you go with Azure DevOps, there'll be limited openings for that. So yeah, so make sure you wider your scope. That could help you in your job search.
that's a quick thing. So I think we are out of time. So it's an hour because I don't want to take off extra time from viewers. So if you'd like to stop here, we can stop here.
No, I
And
can go with like
you can
Just
go. Okay.
I
10,
have just
15 more minutes is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
like
So yeah, let's do another 10-15 minutes. Thank you again for your extra time.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Go ahead, please.
yeah. So one thing like for right now the market after the coming of the this AI like generative models which are
Yeah.
like ChatGPT language based model,
Mhm.
how you think this is going to impact the jobs of DevOps? Like basically, someone is starting to like some freshers are coming to the market. They are very uh, like crucial about how this market is going to in next 10 years. But after the coming of like ChatGPT, most of the content writers' job are in danger. Which
Mhm.
I heard some companies also fired few people their content team after this came up. So, what do you think? What how this will impact the DevOps jobs,
Yeah.
and
The way
what
I
do you,
see it, like yeah, yeah, it's okay. You can complete your question.
and how what do you suggest to the people who are going to learn this DevOps?
Sure. So the way I see it, like whenever there is a new thing comes into the market, there always been this type of hype that is being created around. For example, when calculators were first invented, people were saying like like all the jobs, all the mathematical jobs will be gone, all the accounting jobs would be gone. Or when the computer was invented, so people were saying the banks will be empty now, all the work will be done by computer, or there'll be a lot of fields that's gonna obsolete. It's true to some extent that there'll be some roles that will be obsolete in a long run, but the way I see it is it creates a lot of opportunities for the creation of new roles. Same thing happened with DevOps. Like when DevOps came into the picture, people were saying all the roles that require to log in into the server, manually doing the deployments or manually running the commands will be gone. It's true to some extent. There were some jobs that were gone, but some jobs are still there. Plus, it created a lot of new jobs. Right now, people, those that were afraid that their jobs will be gone, now they are working as a DevOps engineer. Or along with DevOps, it created a lot of other jobs as well. The same thing is what I feel gonna happen with AI. uh, like all the jobs that were there in the market, few of them will be obsolete, but it will create a lot of jobs that requires you to use and implement AI, like how to integrate the GPT-3 API with other tools, or how we can use it to make our processes more efficient, or what new invention or innovation we can do using the APIs that are currently available. So I would say it's a good thing. It's a win-win, but it just has created a lot of fear in the market. For example, with DevOps, I also created one videos recently, like how you can use Chat GPT-3 to boost your productivity if you are working as a DevOps or cloud engineer. So I have personally used it myself. For example, like if I had to earlier, if I had to write a Jenkins pipeline, I have to start on a blank canvas. I just have to put all the basic steps, and then I start writing the logic behind it or the scripts behind it. But now you just enter, create a sample Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. It will give you a skeleton pipeline, and you can just quickly make your changes. So it helps you boost your productivity. Plus, you can use it to what do you call to innovate the things that were not possible before. Earlier you had to scratch, like code everything from scratch when you have to do anything like that. Now you have around 50% of works that's been done for you, and you just have to think about what else we can do. So yeah, so that's what I think. It'll really help you, and it will generate a lot of jobs in the market. But yeah, so there is, I read this saying somewhere, like AI will not replace you, but the person using AI might replace you. So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which company is this? I forgot the name, but the
Open AI.
company. No, no, no. So this company that does reports on that's one survey. Is it
Gartner.
McKinsey? No, McKinsey actually. So
Okay.
McKinsey said, by 2030, the AI market is about 13 or 30 trillion USD. And in terms of jobs, it's going to be tons and tons of jobs. Like retail sits, I think, above 600, uh, and then there are other industries, right, that's going to start adapting AI. And so in terms of jobs, tons of jobs, but in terms of skills, there are not many people with the given skills, right? Um, and even with Chat GPT and all that, right? Yeah, people are actually using it, right, to
Yeah,
boost
yeah,
their productivity. Like I used so some of the advanced SQL queries that I write. Sometimes I take help of Chat GPT. It won't give you exactly what you're looking for, but at least it will give you a sample that
yeah,
you can get started with, and then modify it as you go along, right? Like
yeah.
for example, like advanced SQL, right? I heard of lag lead functions, but I never used it. And ChatGPT just showed me how to use it, and then I start using it in my work, right?
Mm,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
just tweak and play around and so on.
Yep, yep, yep.
So yeah, are you excited with the Google's version of ChatGPT?
Yeah, I am. So it
Right.
is available for us to use. Like internally,
Okay.
Googlers can use it to provide the feedback, like a sort of beta tester. So we are using it. So it's quite interesting to see like
Is it
how
better?
it's gonna evolve. Sorry.
Is it better than ChatGPT?
I'm not really sure. I haven't done that comparison yet, but it is faster. Yes. And so, how, when you enter something in ChatGPT, okay, so I shouldn't say this. So maybe
It's
we should wait.
recording, so it's
Yeah. So,
recording. So yeah,
yeah.
let's not say anything.
Yeah. So let's wait for the public version of it. And yeah, we'll see. So yeah, so like as we were talking about the AI and all those things. So yes, ChatGPT or AI, that's been a really revolution in the IT industry. But if you think about it, even computer was a revolution. So when computer came into the picture, everyone was thinking the same way. Like everyone is the same dilemma, like they are in today's world, but it didn't happen the way we predicted, right? It created a lot of jobs. It brought that IT revolution that we are part of today. If there were no computers, we wouldn't be doing what we are doing now. We wouldn't be even having this podcast, right? So like if you see it in the long run, it will create a lot of jobs. It will, like, there'll be ample opportunities for everyone.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Piyush. So we're just gonna, we have 5 minutes. I'm just gonna take that
Yeah,
5 minutes to,
yeah,
showcase people of, the courses and training that we are providing, and how the tools that you mentioned, DevOps, right? How that can be used in, other areas like how data scientists actually use this in their day-to-day
yeah.
work, to automate things and so on. So let me briefly, before I start that, anyone else wants to mention anything, or is there anything you'd like to share, Piyush, to wrap up? Or
No, I guess, yeah, the only thing that we didn't discuss and I would really like to add is for all the beginners that are in
Mhm,
DevOps or cloud and they are ready for their job search. So I would suggest not just learn those things and do the hands-on, but also try to, contribute to open source, contribute to the community the way it is possible for you. I'm not saying everyone should start creating a YouTube channel and publishing videos. It will be a lot of work, and like not everyone, likes doing it. So you can contribute in the way that is comfortable for you, like creating blogs, creating posts, mentoring someone, or if you are good at programming, just pick any open source project and start contributing to that, and create your GitHub profile, create a good LinkedIn profile, and it will help you get noticed among recruiters. So, and like other websites you can contribute to, such as Stack Overflow, or you can create your blog post in medium.com, dev.to, all those sites. So yeah, that's what I would suggest, and that really helped a lot, in my case as well. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
so just to add on that, if you're an absolute beginner, and if you feel like, I don't know how to contribute, and if you see yourself at not at that advanced level, then the other way of doing it is, create your portfolios, right? You're taking boot camps, good. You're doing projects in the boot camps, good. But again, that's not going to help you in landing the jobs, because there are, tons of other people who are taking to same boot camps, same projects, right? So you have to go beyond, what they teach you. Take that project you do on boot camp, expand it, right? Do something creative, and showcase your projects, that you've done something, you've used many different tools and so on, right? Not just stick to Jupyter notebook, write your code, and done. That's not going to help you these days, right? The market is very competitive.
Yep.
Even though there are not many people with the given skill sets, still you know with the amount of people who are graduating from these boot camps and so on, right? It's very competitive. So stand out, do something that will distinguish you compared to other candidates. Okay. And again, so reach out to us if you ever need guidance and so on. We'll be happy to provide guidance for free. It's to which direction you want to go into, right? And in terms of skill sets, like I said, right, there are tons of YouTube channels that will get you to where you need. And things there are lagging, that we see that there's a huge gap. We are actually building things for people who can, at a minimum cost, so that we can, give back to the community. Right.
Yep.
Um, Thank you, Piyush,
Yep.
once again. So I'll just quickly walk people through, what is it that we are offering, and how you can join us if you'd like to, you know, uh, expand your skill sets and so on, right? And we did a session in the past where we talked about boot camps and how expensive it is, with these boot camps, and what are some of the things that teach you, but still there's a huge gap that we notice in the industry, right? Again, I took boot camp when I was going into data science, and that didn't really help me to land a job, right? Because of this gap that exists in industry, right? So we started designing this end-to-end data science projects where we put together all the different tools into a single project. You can use Python or either of these cloud services, GitHub, and the most important CI/CD tool. That was the discussion of today's talk, right? So how you can implement each of these things into a single project, right? And that's how the projects are carried out in industry. Okay, and the most important one is the software development cycle, right? Coding is creativity. Okay, so you have to build the creative, um, and you have to be a better programmer, right? So when someone tells you to code, it's not just about you're just gonna code randomly, and uh, you have to code in a way that other people can actually understand your code. uh, and if you yourself were to come back to it after 6 months, you should be able to understand it. Okay, and whatever you code you write, they're gonna live for a really long time, right? So you have to make sure that you write in such a way. You think of it as designing a system, right? So you're designing either a product or a system, right? That's going into production, and that's going to stay there for a really long time, right? So how do you think? How do you take your mindset to that level, right? So that's the focus of this project, right? So yeah, you're learning skills, all of these different skills, but also we're helping you take that mindset to a different level. How can you think like a software developer, let's say, right? So that's the goal of this project. And we just released the very first project that we have built, which is this is the entire pipeline, right? So you would start from something like a data engineer would do, and then move on to the things that a data scientist does in the industry, right? Now, since this is not a course on data engineering, we didn't focus on a lot of different tools that data engineers use, but rather the ETL scripts that they build in Python, let's say, right? So that's what we have created here, and how you can generalize it so that that script can be used for many different things, not just one thing, right? And how do you write best practices, right? How do you follow best practices, right? And we want to show that in the code, right? And then how do you automate things, right? So this entire pipeline, we have automated that using Jenkins and GitHub Actions. And same thing with data scientist part, right? We can automate the entire process, right, with a click. So let's say if the raw data were to change, I don't have to go through individual Python scripts and run each of it. All I have to do is go to Jenkins, run the job. That does the job for me, right? So how do you build this entire pipeline? That's what we are giving away. In addition to how you would be, using these tools in the project, right? And also, like I said, like the little tiny things which makes a better programmer as compared to other people. Okay. And also, we do have some people who already started taking these courses, and you're free to talk to them if you ever need to know details and how much they are learning and so on, right? So in terms of the project details, you can work in collaboration, or you can work with individual mentors. So me and Ashit are currently we design these courses, so yeah, we are mentoring right now, and there are more courses that'll be coming into the future. uh oh shit, I have not been sharing my screen. uh okay, can you see my screen? Okay.
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, cool. So these these are, oh, that's a shame. And I'll share my screen. So yeah, so these are some of the tools that I've been mumbling about past 10 to 5 minutes. So yeah, so these are some of the tools that you'll be learning in the course, and this is basically the pipeline that I was talking about. So we would be building this entire pipeline from scratch and automating the entire pipeline along with best practices, right? Um, and in terms of project, you can work in collaboration with me and Ashay. We design the first course or individually, and there are more courses that me, Ashay, and maybe Sushant as well will be designing going forward. And we'll be releasing that course for people so that you can do, if you don't like, let's say, time series or regression and so on, if you're interested in computer vision, we'll have that course ready end to end in a few months. um, and the only requirement is that the projects, so you can think of this as an internship. So you're coming to work with us as an intern, and the structure would be exactly the same thing as intern, right? So if you were to go do an internship somewhere else, exact same structure, right? You would meet twice or three times a week, work on the project together, stay connected in Slack, etc. Right? Um, so previously we were offering it for 1.5 months. We extended that to 2 months because we noticed that a lot of people are lagging the basics that they need. Right? Even though we mentioned like people require some basics in order to join the course, but because people were so interested, they joined, and we saw that okay, you know what, we were able to finish in 1.5 months. So we extended that to 2 months. The only requirement is that you do need to know basics in Python, and please do the basics in Python before joining. Otherwise, we'll have to end up teaching you, a Python course, and again, that's a completely separate course, right? So we would require you to know, the basics in Python. And again, this is where it's going to be a distinction between us and boot camps who are already, there are tons of boot camps who teach you Python, right? Go on Udemy and so on, right? They all teach you Python. So just know the basics of Python, and then you're free to join us. And because we had to boost that up, right? We had to increase our price to $20-$30 more because of additional things that we'll be teaching. So as of now, we are trying to stay, because we want to give back to the community, but at the same time, we are investing tons of time in building this entire thing. And also we are using some of the services which would require us to pay. Hence why, we decided we're going to charge a small amount. And also we're trying to build a solid team at the data science show so that, we can give back to the community. And that's why we're charging, realistic amount as compared to other boot camps and all that you can find on the internet, right? So as of now, we decided, okay, we'll keep at this price, and we do have a refund policy. So if you're not happy in the first 2 weeks, we'll be happy to give you back the 75% of your money, right? The only thing we require is, if you can leave us a feedback as to what is it that you didn't like and so on, right? And also this is we're taking limited students as compared to other places where they will be taking on 10-15 students and they will be running a live session with them. Instead, the way that we're doing here is we would take if it's in collaboration or individually, we would limit to 2 to 3 people, and it's one-on-one session, right? And given one-on-one session, I still feel like this amount is pretty small, but again, we don't care much. We don't want to charge a lot like other boot camps, right? So rather we want to help people upskill and go find jobs. And the most important thing, we're not guaranteeing jobs like boot camps. What we are guaranteeing is you'll be a better programmer, you'll be a better data scientist, right? Because we're going to focus on tiny little things that other boot camps and so on wouldn't focus on, right? And also learn tools in a single project. So reach out to us, fill out this form, or you can reach out to us on LinkedIn, me, Ashita, Sushant, to learn more about the project, and if you'd like to enroll and so on. And yeah, that's all from me. So let's, and we do have upcoming sessions coming up. So we'll have next weekend, we'll do an end-to-end data science project demo. So this entire project that I just showed you, we'll be doing a demo session. We have done it in the past. We'll do it again so that people can see what is it that we're offering. And then we'll have another podcast by a company called Blinks AI, which have automated the entire process where you can well, you will learn more when you join us. So yeah, stay tuned and follow us on LinkedIn to learn more about it. And yeah, do follow tech tutorials with Piyush to learn more about DevOps and cloud engineering and so on. So with that, let me wrap up. So thank you, Piyush, again, very much for joining us. And yeah, it was we learned
Thank
a
you
lot
so
from
much, guys.
you,
Yeah,
and hopefully the speakers learned a lot from you. And thank you for your extra time
yeah,
as well.
no problem. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks a lot, Piyush.
Okay, well, yeah.